Our first guest happens to be a friend of the Tamron Hall show. And despite not being a Dallas Cowboy, he is considered one of the greatest football players of all time after 15 seasons and a place in the NFL Hall of Fame. He transitioned from football to a multi-platform TV career, hosting Good Morning America, the $100,000 Pyramid, Can I Get a Loan, and football on Fox. Joining us from his home in New York City, the one and only Michael Strahan. Hey, so good to have you on finally.
Well, you know, finally, it's great to be on, Tamron. You know, I love you. I love the show. Thank you.
Oh.
And goodness, I was not a Dallas Cowboy.
You know what? We'll unpack that in a minute. But let me tell you, because people know you, depending on your generation, people know you for certain things. We were talking yesterday. I said, do you guys know Michael more as a football player or a television host? And my crew here said 50-50. Because you have made such an impact in both of these fields in your life. I want to start with football, though, because I didn't know, Michael, you didn't actually play until you were, what was it, the 12th grade?
Yeah.
In high school?
I was a senior in high school when I played my first year of football in high school. I was the only year in high school. And that picture goes to show I didn't even know how to put on a uniform with those pads.
Right.
But you know what? I went out there, and the one thing that I would do is I would hustle, and I would run, and I would listen to the coach. I was open to be coached, and I found it, I loved it. And the thing I loved the most about it was the camaraderie and being the new kid in that high school, because I came from Germany to Westbury High School in Houston, that was my way of getting to know other guys and being part of the community. So, yeah, I was you call a late bloomer.
Right, and so I'm looking at this picture of you. So even though you didn't know how to play the sport, the size seemed to be there. So you're this big kid walking around, and someone says, you know what, you could probably get out here and do this and excel, which you did. And then you ended up going to an HBCU, Texas Southern University, which when you look at big football dynasties at the time, that's not the first to come to mind. So here's an obstacle as far as the perception of football at that school, and you launch in. Yeah,
you know what? And my biggest support, my dad was my biggest supporter. So my dad, I think it was when, it wasn't if. So when something's going to happen, he put me on the plane, sent me to Houston, said, when you get this football scholarship, I got a scholarship to Texas Southern University. And I loved being at a HBCU. It was nothing better for me because it just fit. It helped me grow. It helped me become a man. And now, you know, I was having this conversation this morning, actually, about HBCUs, and there's this perception that if you go there, you're missing out on diversity. And that is so far from the truth. Ed Lever, one of my best friends from college, is a kicker. He's white. So it's like everybody is at an HBCU. It's a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it just goes to show it's not, you know, where you're at in sports. You think you have to go to some big schools to get noticed. They will find you if you're talented. And that's what I tell all these young kids. Don't feel like you're at a disadvantage. Just take advantage of where you are.
And I love that because you are, to your point, the resilience comes from recognizing that, okay, this may not be easy, or the yellow brick road may not be the one that I have to follow. I might have to go through the wilderness and go a different route, which is what you did. Yeah. I remember, Michael, when it was announced that you were going to join GMA, and I thought, this is genius. This is a genius opportunity for him and for the show. But real talk, I remember people saying, but he's not a journalist. He can't make that transition. He's a football player. So now you are an NFL Hall of Famer, and you're going into this whole different judgmental world of what someone, you know, the background you're supposed to have to be a journalist or a news person. Were you afraid? Were you worried?
Yeah, of course I was worried. And when they first asked me to do it, I told them, no, I don't want to do it. I was scared to do it because I looked at myself and said, well, I'm not necessarily what everybody would perceive to be a journalist. But being a journalist is no different from someone who is curious. That's what journalism is. Having someone who's curious, who asks the questions that you want asked and tries to get the answers that you want answered. And pretty much anybody can do that. You just have to be curious, and you have to, you know, for me, dive into my craft and dive into what I do. And I have always been someone who would work hard, someone who would learn. I sit next to George and Robin. There's no one better to learn from than those two. But to just sit there and not soak in and when I'm not talking, when I'm not on camera, to look at them and see how they're phrasing, how they carry themselves, the way they ask questions, the way they make comments, I would be a fool not to like ingest that. And that's what I've done. And it's really weird that you say that most people 50-50 on football and also my post career, what they know me for. But if I were younger, that would have been an insult. But as I've gotten older, it is such a compliment because it means I've made that full transition. And I hate when people put limits on what you could be.
Yeah.
Who said you can't be football and something else afterwards? Because we always tell athletes, oh, your career is so short. You got to prepare for the future. Well, I did.
Right.
So why should I be penalized for preparing for the next step in life? Because I retired at 36. I just didn't want to sit at home all day. The kids would drive me crazy.
And you would drive them crazy.